What's up, YouTube? LTH coming at you with a video. 713, the bio sitting we in a damn building. And yeah, the NFL draft is tomorrow, which is the main part I want to focus on to see who the Texans select. But before I talk about that, there's two things I want to do before talking about the main thing, which is the draft. Starting off by wishing my guy Titan Anderson a happy birthday, a happy 35th birthday, who is a Tennessee Titans content creator, who's, a bit more active on YouTube. I mean, not YouTube, on TikTok. But if I will share his TikTok, but unfortunately I don't got a TikTok. But what I will do is, you know, post this, link up in the channel on the channel description. So y'all want to go wish him a happy birthday? Y'all can do that. But salute to Ty Anderson on him making it to his 35th birthday. If you see this, hope you're enjoying your 35th birthday, man. Big salute to you. Yeah, we are division rivals when it comes to Texans and Titans, but I always respected the brother. Even if we ain't talk a lot, I always got a tremendous amount of respect for the brother, Titan Anderson. So big salute to you, big man. Enjoy your birthday. Second, I want to talk about before talking about the NFL draft is, you know, a year ago today since the Texans released new uniforms. Though I'm not going to talk too much about it, but yeah, it's been a whole year since the Houston Texans released new uniforms in in the 2024 off season. And I gotta say, 1 year later, those uniforms that the Texans released, including the H-Town Blues and the helmets, new helmets with the H on it and the battle red helmets with the bull horns on top. I gotta say, 1 year later, they are still lethal. They are lethal and fire at that. And I understand that I haven't bought the new jerseys. And so I wouldn't mind rocking the old jerseys that they had as well. But, as much as I like the old jerseys, you know, the new jerseys are even better, than the old uniforms that Houston Texans once wore. Back when they first started in 2002, they rocked the old from back in '02 to 2023 before unveiling new uniforms. So, man, and yes, I understand that every Texans fan endured the negative feedback about the new Texans uniforms. And yes, the Texans got crap about the uniforms, just like any other fan base and team would get crapped on about new uniforms that any team released, like the Rams, for example, the Jags. Hell, even the Titans unveiled new uniforms at one point back in 2018. The Falcons, you name them, the Rams. I mean, it was various teams that got crapped on about unveiling new uniforms. So the Houston Texans aren't the only one. Hell, even the Broncos unveiled new uniforms last year, just like the Texans did. So safe to say that 1 year later, uniforms of the Texans are still badass. Okay, so there is that. I just want to give my 2 quick cents in on that. Now let's on to the big one. The main thing that I want to talk about, which is the NFL draft, which is tomorrow. Less than 24 hours away. And yeah, it's been some rumors, a lot of talks about trade ups and trade downs for what's going to happen tomorrow. And I understand Cam Ward is a lot to be drafted by the Tennessee Titans. So I wouldn't be shocked if it becomes a reality. But as far as the Houston Texans, it's going to see whether it's been talks about whether they trade up or trade down to get the guy they need. You know, as far as I'll be all in for drafting. You know, if I was to predict who the Texans are going to draft tomorrow, whether they trade up or trade down or not, or decide to stay at 25, you know, yeah, I would love for Tyler Banks, not Tyler Banks, Kelvin Banks the former Longhorn to come to the Texans. But, you know, there's just something about Tyler Booker, that intrigues me a little bit more, you know. So, since the interior online, needs to be addressed it more. And I also say, they still could draft a left tackle, but my first choice of consideration would be Tyler Booker, you know, because just like Will Anderson, he played at Alabama, and it was talks about, you know, Booker being the Will Anderson of the offensive line. So if he ends up being drafted by the Texans, hey, I'll be all for it because D'Amico Ryans, has a tendency of drafting players from Alabama. I mean, look at Will Anderson, 23. Look at Henry To'o. He played at Bama. I mean, wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Booker becomes a Texan. Second player, who I wouldn't mind drafting at 25 is Calvin Banks out of Texas. Why would I want that? Simple, knowing that, Cam Robinson, is only gonna be there for a year. So it would be great for, Calvin Banks to learn from Cam Robinson, mentor him, you know, left tackle of the future, just to get him prepared, you know. I mean, yeah, I would still want for Cam Robinson to be solid, even if for 1 year, but knowing that Cam Robinson's not gonna be there next season, hell, I wouldn't mind adding, drafting Kelvin Banks. If it means trading up a few spots to get the guy, Kevin Banks, hey, I'll be all for it. Because the Texans, they need to get that offensive line straightened up. So they really got to draft offense, offense heavy in this draft. You know, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't mind, drafting a few defensive players, few D tackle, uh, safety as my honorable mention, or corner. But Houston just got to draft heavy on offense, you know. And I won't be, I mean, and hey, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up drafting 3 or 4 offensive linemen. Because what can I say? Protecting CJ Stroud in 2025, very important. Because if you go into 2025 with that O line not addressed, Stroud's going to get sacked even more, 60 to 70 times next season. So for my honorable mention, well, at pick 25, Matthew Golden. I mean, why do would like for Matt Golden to come to the Texans? Simple, maybe not too simple, but I'll say, because of, Tank Dell not playing in 25, not in 2025. I mean, drafting Matt Golden from Texas, would actually shore up that receiving core because Houston does need another receiver, you know, a receiver not too big, but not too small either. At least like 6 foot or 6'3" at best. Drafting Matt Golden, to- aside with Nico Collins and Christian Kirk, you know, I want to say Isaiah Bond, but I got a feeling he's gonna end up being drafted, like in the second or third round at best. I could be wrong, but I mean, I wouldn't mind drafting that player from Ohio State, but there's a chance that he might go like 20, top 15 or top 20 at best. But I could be wrong. But like I always say, the NFL, just like free agency, the NFL draft is so predictable. Like it's not even funny. But there is, a couple running backs from Ohio State I would like to have too, which is part of my other honorable mentions in the draft. It's that Hendrick. I don't. I mean, I kind of forgot their names, but one of the two running backs I'd be cool with from Ohio State. But yeah, I'll look it up, when I'm or I'll find out tomorrow for sure. Either way, I'm gonna find out one way or the other. But yeah, man, my prediction, for round one at 25, whether they trade up or not, they stay at 25, my prediction would be Tyler Booker or should the Texans trade up, I say they select Kelvin Banks at left tackle, or if they also decide to stay at 25, hey, draft Kelvin Banks from Texas. Because oh nine's gotta get revamped. Because kind of sucks enough that they missed out on signing Mekhi Becton, who went to the Chargers and who I wanted, you know. But hey, it is what it is. You got to move on. But yeah, man, but I could see this as part of my yeah, man. My predictions, first choice would be Tyler Booker from Alabama. You know, if that don't work out, my second prediction, main prediction is Kelvin Banks. Honorable mention, wide receiver Matt Golden. Which would shore up their receiving core. But if they don't work out, hey, they can go get a talented receiver in the later round. In between the second and fourth round at best. You know, but hey, let's just see what happens tomorrow for who the Texans decide to what the Texans decide to do at number 25. If they stay at 25, cool. If they trade up or trade down, hey, make sure it's definitely worth it. Because not to mention Nick Casario is gonna be hella aggressive in this NFL draft with the trade ups and downs. So I wouldn't be surprised if Casario makes trades come tomorrow night. So there it is. But hey, that's about all I got. You know, whether I decide being I'm debating on whether I'm gonna make a video as soon as the Texans draft a player or make a video after the first round of the NFL draft concludes. No, I'm debating on how I'm gonna do things, but other than that, that's about all I have. To my next video, which will be the Rockets and Warriors Game 2 recap. LTH checking on the body here, 713 to Bio City. Peace, love, and respect, and go Texans.